swear the nation army couldn't hold me back.
Welcome to the Heat versus the World podcast.
Taking
And
time
now,
behind my back.
stand up and make some noise for your host, Joel Jacob.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Heat vs. the World podcast. With me, I got my guys Alex and Deem. And listen, y'all see what's below my name. Another day of no suffering. I'm so happy, y'all. You know, we've come a long way, guys. I know we kind of sad because there's no Heat hoops, but they are at peace, and so are we, right? So, you know, I'm happy. But with that being said, the reason why we wanted to come out and record this new episode is because, in case y'all missed it, today Pat Riley stepped up and did another press conference like he always does when the Heat gets eliminated. And we got a lot of quotes that we got to dive through. So before we get into it, I want to ask y'all how you guys feeling as we enter in this early off season for the Heat. I'll start off with you, Coach.
So what's up, y'all? Just anticipating whatever's going to happen next, man. Obviously, like we said, we're getting into where everything that Pat said today, so let's get after it.
Is there a new Deem?
Yeah, I'm here. My fault. I had a quick phone conversation. I don't know, man. It's an interesting press conference. I'm just ready to dive into it.
All right, so let's get into this, guys. So first off, I want to go into my bit of an icebreaker, right? So it's funny because the last part we did, I mentioned, I believe it was Mario Chalmers, right? We talked about him saying that he felt like Pat should step down, blah, blah, blah. And what an interesting way to start off this press conference. You know, the way how it started off, right? So Pat Riley starts the press conference saying, I'm not going to retire. I'm not going to resign. I'm not going to step aside. So for an 80-year-old Pat to say this, I think we can all
81.
81. Oh, okay. 2 years away from just matching Bam and his 83 points. Interesting. But yeah, from what we can hear from that is that this sounds like Pat is not trying to retire anytime soon, of course. If anything, he's probably going to take this position to the grave with him. So with this being said, considering how we all feel about Pat and, you know, in regards to him wanting to step down, and like we said, we've heard the opinions from some of the players, i.e. Mario Chalmers. What's your opinion on this and how y'all feel knowing that we are not a day closer to Pat Riley potentially retiring as the Miami Heat's president? I'll start off with you, Deem.
Y'all know how I feel. I think you know it's the game has passed him by. That's my opinion. I think the game has passed him by. Like no matter what, he's still a legend. He's still a legend. He's still a legend. He's still one of the pioneers of the sport. But I think the game just passed him by. How the game has evolved, and he mentioned that in his press conference that he's not in line with it anymore, and that's okay. That's okay. It is what it is. And I agree with what Mario said. Like a lot of these young players, they don't know who Pat Riley is. They can care less of who he is and what he's did for the sport. And it's just time for a change. That's just my opinion. It's just time for a change.
I mean, I can't blame you for feeling that way. Chef Trilly, aka Austin, as y'all know him on Heat Twitter. I know he said something a little interesting that caught my attention. He says, you know, that what's his name? Pat is basically at an age like his grandfather, where it's like he wouldn't trust him to like drive to Publix by himself. And yet we have a guy at that age who's running a billion-dollar organization. So, you know, it's safe to say that you're not alone with this thought, Deem. But how about you, Alex? How you feel about Pat?
I mean, me and Dean kind of sort of feel the same way. I think I mentioned on the last episode that I'd be okay with somebody else coming in who's done it before, who's younger. But I knew for a fact that the only way that Pat was going to get out of that chair is if, and he mentioned it today, is if Mickey and Nick push him out the chair. Like, hey, yo, like, yeah, thank you for everything, but you're done here. So I was not surprised that he said that. That Trilly tweet is honestly absolutely perfect.
I wish I had it on me. My bad, y'all.
Hello?
Yep, you're there. I hear you.
My mom was calling me.
You good? She must have heard. She must have seen the press conference too, huh?
Definitely not. But yeah, like it's honestly, I feel the same way, man. Like the game is passing by. I don't know if you have the tweet or anything, but I know. I think Ira in his first question he asked basically about the fact that like teams have like basically if how they used to build teams, which is still how the Heat trying to build teams. He was like, yo, basically like that doesn't work anymore. So are you going to change what you're doing? And he was like, we're going to change what we're doing by doing exactly what we do, which is basically doing the same exact thing, just trying to acquire talent.
Yeah, he said he's not going to change his philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, a fancy way of saying we just gonna run it back over and over and over again. But it is what it is. I mean, because I don't know. To me, it just seems like Giannis or bust from the way how we going into this offseason. And we're gonna talk more about all of this stuff. So I'm not trying to dive too deep into everything. But I do want to pull up some of these quotes that came from this press conference, right? So one thing Pat talks about, like I mentioned, it's like we're running it back to back in all these years. And we see it because now we're in another position where we saw the Heat go back into the play-in, right? Like this is like our fourth straight year of doing it. And I mean, this is what Pat had to say about all of that. So let's hear that real quick.
I'm really pissed. I'm disappointed, disgruntled, just like everybody else in the organization is that understands what we're about and about winning and about, disappointment. And so the last 3 or 4 years, with the exception of the 23 season when we got all the way to the finals, it's been something that I'm not proud of, that we're not proud of. Always trying to compete at the highest levels, whether you're doing it, from a playing standpoint to get, the 6th seed or the top 3 or 4, the machinations and your feelings about how you go about things are the same. And we've always been a team that tries to win, that competes to win. There's been 3 times, I think, 3 or 4 times, that it was obvious that we weren't going to win. There was probably going to be a lottery team. I think that was 2002, 2003 with, Caron Butler and Dwayne. Then 2008 with Bees, and, so that's not my philosophy. That's not ours. We're always going to try to win. We're not going to apologize for it. If we're competing for the last spot in the play-in, we will fight to the very last breath.
All right. So I'm just come out and say it. I mean, like he said, we are all pissed off at the fact that we keep going into the play-in year after year after year. I mean, I always think about this one quote you mentioned, Alex, when we were getting ready for this season. I just don't want us to be in the middle of the pack. And when I mean in the middle, I mean, I don't want us to suck to the point where how do I say this? We're not good enough where we can't make it to the playoffs as a 1 seed or the 6 seed, but yet we're not bad enough to at least finish seeds 11 to 15. Okay, it's got to be one or the other for me. I can't do with these constant play-in games because, first of all, I don't like rooting for the Heat to lose. That's not me. But when we are in the play-in and like we're in this situation, it's like I don't know what to root for as a fan because it's like I don't want to see my team lose, but at the same time, I don't have it in me to potentially see another Cavaliers situation where we end up making it to the playoffs after having a great, memorable performance in the play-in, and then some team just beats the brakes off of us. Okay, like I remember I had a conversation with my dad. I'll tell y'all a story, right? I told my dad during this Hawks playing game last year, I said, I'm rooting the Heat lose this game. He's like, nah, bro, you're not a true fan if you're rooting for them to lose. And I'm like, okay, so you want them to go to the playoffs and go on some other improbable run like you think they did in 2023? He's like, well, you never know what's going to happen, right? So everything happens, Heat win, they go and play Cleveland, right? I called him after game 4, right? We lose that game by as much as we did, lost by Duncan Robinson. And I asked him, I said, are you still happy we won that game? And after that, his opinion on the Heat has not like changed because he realized he screwed up. He realized that this team does not belong in the playoffs if they're going to keep playing like this. They just need to go try to get a good lottery pick and hope for the best. And that's where so much people I'm seeing on social media are feeling too, because I see so much positive folks on the TL, saying, oh, well, you know what? Y'all got to have the guts. Y'all got to have this and that. The same people who used to preach all these things, even they're against the Heat. And if that doesn't speak volumes to y'all, I don't know what does. Like the Heat just are in a terrible spot. And I get what Pat is saying. It's not in the Heat's nature to really not make the playoffs and stuff. And that's understandable. Y'all don't want to die as a team, but we're just in such a nasty spot that I just don't know what to do. And I mean, I don't know, because I hate to see us be like a lottery team too, because I want to see my team compete for a championship every year. But if it means that we're going to be in the play-in every season, I'm not trying to be that one squad that just can't make it out there. And when I see folks like, Boston lapping us the way how they've done it, it really frustrates me, especially because I don't know if y'all seen the tweets last year after Jason Tatum suffered that torn Achilles, but I saw people joking. They're like, oh, Miami and Boston, they're about to renew that playoff rivalry, but this time they're going to do it in the play-in. What happened? Even without JT, they made it all the way to the 2 seed. Probably could make it to the finals with the way how the East looks. And where are we? So I know y'all got some stuff y'all want to say, but it's like, I mean, I'm just kind of tired of it with this playing stuff. And Pat says he is too. But at the same time, bro, sometimes I feel like we just got to learn when to like pull the plug. And Pat, if you're listening, bro, just do something, man. I can't do this in the middle of the pack type stuff. I'm not trying to be a 7, 8, 9, or 10 seed every year. Like either pick one side or the other. Make it to the playoff seeds 1 to 6, or make it into the lottery seeds 11 to 15. None of this, play in how do you call it? Purgatory nonsense.
Purgatory.
I'm sorry. See, you had to correct me before the show too, but it is what it is. But that's how frustrated I am that my words ain't coming together, y'all. But Alex, how you feeling, bro, after hearing that quote?
Man, I'm obviously, like you said, everybody's not happy, but I do understand, like, always looking to compete because of the fact that, like, you're trying to make sure that you don't set your young guys up with bad habits. Like, it'll be tough if you're losing on purpose like a bunch of teams are, and then next thing you know, you feel like you got a good team, so now you're like, oh, guys, like, now I need y'all to win at a high level. Like, oh, dog, all we've been doing for the last 3 years is losing on purpose. How are we supposed to know how to win now? Like you got to learn how to win. So competing to win every game, and then, all right, we competed to win, but we came up short. Like, that'll put you in a different place. I mean, obviously, we haven't tanked for real. Like, I mean, we didn't tank, and we ended up with Bam one year. We didn't tank the next year. We ended up with Tyler. Like, we didn't tank. We tried to make the playoffs in D-Wade's last year. We didn't make it. Jimmy Butler shows up. Like, I feel like one of the things that Pat was saying in that, he was kind of sort of dropping hints to people, to players who might be interested in coming to Miami, they're like, yo, like you coming here, you ain't got to worry about no funny business. Like we're going to compete every game, no matter who's on the court, which in the long run is a good thing. But when you're stuck in the middle, like we have been, it's like, hey, you either can, like you said, you can go one way or you can go the other way. And we're literally just stuck right here in neutral. And that's not a good place to be. But I mean, we've got out of neutral before, and I'm hoping that we can get out of neutral this offseason, or I guess we'll talk about everything else later on in the pod.
Right. And I don't want to talk too much about it, but like you mentioned it yourself, like there's been teams who are trying to tank, and some players aren't fond of that. You know, I look at the situation with Milwaukee, right? I mean, Giannis had to put together a whole investigation because he's not fond with the Bucks trying to shut him down, you know? So you think about that stuff. And also, like you mentioned, which is a very good point, the fact that we don't want to set losing habits for these players, because I can't help but think about some of these guys who are so talented. But yeah, I feel like they're just so used to being in losing situations that I don't know if I'd even want them on my own team. You know, one of those guys being the bum that tripped Bam in that playing game that sent us home. Y'all know who I'm talking about. He will remain nameless. But that's one guy who I view as a losing player. Maybe y'all don't think that way, but that's just how I personally view that guy. But yeah, like I do agree with it from that standpoint. And one thing I will say before I pass the mic to you, Deem, I mean, Dwayne Wade and UD technically wasn't even drafted, so I can't even mention him. But Dwayne Wade, there's a reason why he is the only Miami Heat player whose number is retired that actually got drafted by us, right? And that's because we prided ourselves off of, you know, signing and trading for these guys who can come here and make an impact, because we're so focused on competing now that we never actually have a chance to go into the lottery and get that generational talent through there. You know, that's where the Chris Bosches, the Alonzo Mournings, the Tim Hardaways come in, and they make a name for themselves. And even the Jimmy Butlers, even though I don't know if the Heat will retire his number.
They better.
I hope so. I really hope so. Like, come on. Y'all might not rock with him now, but when it's all said and done, y'all got to celebrate those times we had here, whether if it came with a championship or not, and honor that man with that number 22 in the rafters. But with that being said, Deem, how you feeling about hearing these comments from Pat?
You can't be mad at him. I mean, he wants to compete. He said he won't apologize for wanting to compete. You can't be mad at that. You want that in the guy to run your organization. That's the guy you want. Like I'm not mad at the quote, and I don't know if it was in the beginning or the end of the quote, but he said if he's ever been from higher ups, if he's ever told that he has to tank 1 year, he said he'll quit. Like he'll quit. Like and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I love that mindset from him. But then we go in and we look at the season we had. And he said he always wants to compete. And he looked at this roster and he knew that they wasn't going to compete for a championship. Why not make no move? Like, so it's kind of like you contradicting yourself. Why not make those moves to go get better, to compete, to win those championships? Or like, everyone knows only 2 teams that can compete for a championship every year, and only 1 team can win every year. When you look at teams like Toronto, I don't think none of us believe Toronto's a championship favorite. But fans, we want to believe that, at least we have a chance. Like Toronto, I'm pretty sure those fans don't believe they're going to win a championship this year. But in the back of their minds, we have a chance. You never know what can happen in these playoffs. And honestly, Toronto might actually do have a chance to go compete for a championship or at least play in the Eastern Conference Finals. So again, what Pat said, I actually like what he said. I don't mind it. Like that's the type of guy you want to run your organization, but it's not matching up. Like, his actions is not matching up with the words he's saying. That's the only problem I have with the quote.
I mean, I agree. I now say this because you mentioned a good point. When you talk about Raptors and stuff, like when Jimmy Butler was here, bro, and I'm not trying to make this a Jimmy show or anything like that because I already mentioned him before. But when 22 was still here, bro, I believe, man. Like, there was a reason even after we didn't get Dame, I still thought we could win a championship. You know, even though the trade obviously flopped, Terry Rozier, all this other stuff went down. When we were making these moves, a part of me thought, okay, if we can get things right, we can go in there, we can find a way to beat Boston, beat Milwaukee with Giannis and Dame, beat these guys, go back into the finals. Can we win the chip? We'll have to wait and find out, but we can get there. You know, I believe that all the way until Jimmy suffered that MCL injury in that first playing game against Philly. And the thing is, that conviction, that belief, it's just not there for me, at least, ever since he got traded, right? I mean, like, I'm always going to believe in my squad no matter what. I'm always watch the games and hope for the best. But that type of conviction where I once thought, hey, we could still make it to the finals, even though we're the 7th seed or the 8th seed, that is just not there with me, which is why I feel you, Dean. Like, I really do, because I don't feel that same way no more. Like, I saw someone tweet something after Jimmy got traded. He said, no one made you believe in the Heat the way how 22 did. And I mean, I couldn't agree anymore, because you know, if Jimmy was here right now, I mean, it's crazy to say this, but I probably believe in the squad, you know, assuming that he's healthy, of course. Praise up to him with, you know, everything he's been through this year. But that's how much conviction that Jimmy, a guy like his caliber, brought to the squad. So speaking of Jimmy, I do want to head into another quote that Pat goes into. And he does talk about the Jimmy Butler trade, right? And this quote from him got a lot of people talking, because he essentially talks about how, you know, this deal that we made, you know, getting Andrew Wiggins and everyone, it essentially helped Miami to improve this year, getting better by winning 6 extra games than they did last year. And let's just take a step deep into this quote. Give me 1 second.
1 year to make the team better. And so over the last 10 years, we've had 150-win season. We won 48, we won 46, 44, whatever it is. And, you know, when you look back at what we did with Jimmy, and in that trade, you know, winning 37 games last year for a lot of reasons, and then, you know, winning 6 more games this year, you know, that's an improvement. I mean, you have to look at the little things, even though it's not good enough for a lot of people. And so we did improve, okay, you know, from that standpoint. Now, incrementally, can we get up to that 50-win mark?
So with this being said, Alex, I'm going to give you the mic first. What's your opinion when you hear these quotes from Pat on this?
I mean, it's like I understand it at face value. Obviously, yeah, you improved. You had 37 wins last year. Now you was at 43. But you're still in the exact same spot. Like, and we're in that exact same spot because of the fact that more people than ever before were tanking this year. Like, if everybody who was, not even everybody, if I guess more people were trying to get into the play-in, then some of those games that we won, we lose because those guys are playing to win. Those guys are probably not sitting their best players. And then it's a toss-up now that, all right, we didn't sit down this insert 30 points a game score here for the last half of the game. Like, oh, snap, now you got to deal with that guy. So there's an issue there. Like, okay, yeah, we improved, but did we really, if we're still in the same exact spot? Like, I think Spo mentioned in his end of the year presser, talking about, he was like, yeah, like I remember whatever year it was, we won 40 something games and we were like the 4th or the 5th seed. That doesn't matter. That doesn't help us right now. Like, we were 10. We were 10. And I know Pat talked about, hey, the goal every year is to try and win 50. It was like, my formula to win the 50 is 30 at home, 20 on the road. That's how you know that you're one of those teams that could possibly compete and everything. But, like, all right, we could look back on the season and find at least 7 games where we as fans looked at the game and thought, all right, they could win that game. And they lost. Yep. So that shows you we're not there. that's the reason why we were right back in the same spot in the middle.
Exactly. And before I slide to you, Deem, I just gotta say, I mean, we're literally the exact same seed that we were last year. It's like everything that people wanted to pinpoint into why that season was bad as it was. Oh, the Jimmy drama messed up the locker room, this, and that. We can't pinpoint that stuff into this season as well. Like a lot of those excuses that we wanted to throw in the way as to why last season was so bad, it's not present for us. They're not valid reasons anymore. So my thing is, okay, we didn't make the playoffs, right? But to tell me that we finished as the same exact seed as last year, only difference is that we win a few more games. And like you mentioned, Alex, because a lot of team is locked in on tanking and that specifically, that doesn't do anything for me, bro. Like, and it doesn't help that we were still losing two tanking teams in the process. Okay, like we lost a couple times to Indiana, unacceptable. We lost to Utah as well, unacceptable. And mind you, Utah literally sat out a couple of their guys, didn't they? The game that we lost in the fourth quarter because they were trying to make sure that we weren't going to win that. All this stuff was happening, and yet it still wasn't good enough to help us win. You look at that. You look at the fact that we lost to Sacramento. All these teams that are trying to not win because they want a good draft pick, they still found a way to beat us. So it's like, yeah, you want to compete, yeah, you want to do this and that, but it's so hard for us to invest in y'all as a squad and to believe in you guys when this is what's happening. And to be the exact same seed as the previous season, that's what makes it a bitter pill to swallow. And we look at these other squads that we quote unquote hate watch, right? Everyone hates Portland, us Heat fans, because of the whole Dame situation. They're in the playoffs and we're not. Like that kind of frustrates me. They're probably not going to make it out the first round. Most definitely not. I think it's like 3-1 now, right? Or have they already played game 4? I haven't played.
Yeah, it's 3-1. It's 3-1.
Okay. Portland and San Antonio.
Yeah, they just played last night.
Okay, yeah, so it's 3-1. But yeah, I look at situations like that, like at least they're in the playoffs and they were able to get a win while we're sitting here on the couch at home, not doing anything. Like we're in Cancun. That type of stuff irritates me because it's like, man, even if we're not that good, at least tell us we're good enough to at least make it past the 10 seed, get past the spot we were in last year. And like I said, I don't want to hog the mic too much. So, Deem, I want to know, like, what do you guys say about this quote-unquote improvement from this Jimmy trade?
I think it was a misquote. I think everybody took it the wrong way. I don't think he said that the team improved. I think he was just saying, like, record-wise, because he said,
oh, yeah,
like we made small, like that was an improvement. You went from 37 to 43. So, that was a improvement. And I guess what he was trying to say was, he said that we won 37 wins, and that was to a lot of things, whatever happened. I think he was talking about the Jimmy drama, and I guess the Tyler issues and stuff like that. I think that's what he was referring to. So I don't think like he was saying, oh, the team improved. I think a lot of people took that quote on Twitter and just like ran with it and retwisted it. I don't think it was like a horrible quote. I don't think that was one of his worst quotes of the day. But again, back what Alex said, it's still bad because at the end of the day, we are still stuck in the middle from last year. And then, you had 13 or 11. I'm sorry, you got 11 teams who won under 40 games this year. This was one of the worst seasons in NBA history where, you had so many losing teams. And again, back to what Coach said, we're not improving. Like, we're still the 10th seed. Roster wise, with Jimmy Butler, yeah, the team was better. You took Jimmy Butler off, you won 6 more games, but you were way worse than you was last year, in my opinion. Nico, he was horrible this year. Jaime wasn't that great last year, but he improved this year. But again, we stuck in the same spot.
Right.
Seed. And again, what you said, Joe, we lost games that we should have won, including that Utah game. It was just nothing changed. The same problems we had last year, the same problems we have this year.
Exactly. And that's the thing for me. I mean, I just don't know because it's like, yeah, we won these games, bro, but it's like it's like, is that anything to be happy about? Like, I just don't know. And for me, when I look at this whole situation, it's tough because this is probably the weakest the East has ever been when you look at the injuries and stuff. Like, I don't know. To y'all, I mean, do y'all feel that same way? Like, yes or no? Like, has this probably been, because we already know the East is a weak conference compared to the West, but can we all agree that this year's probably been the weakest it's ever been?
In recent history, yes.
Okay, and you think so too, Dean? What you think? So I'm gonna take this on as a yes. But like the thing for me is like we could have capitalized on this. We knew Hallie was gonna be out this year. We knew Tatum was gonna be out for a good chunk of the season. Like all of these things we knew, and yet we didn't capitalize on it. We still finished 10th in the East, which is so frustrating, bro. And like I know it's tough for you, Alex, because I mean, it was, try to get a guy like KD, get a guy like this, get a guy like that. We didn't really do much, bro. And I know people will say we got Norman Powell, this, and that. But even then, bro, like look how the season went even after getting him for basically scraps too. Like it's just a bad season. And while we can sit here and pinpoint so much of the blame on Pat, I do want to mention something that he did mention in his press conference. And it's funny because we did mention this in that last episode. I think it was Coach, you brought this up. I mean, we were talking about whether or not he runs the team really. Is he the one that calls the shots? Let's hear what he had to say about that.
Taxes and stuff. I was very thoughtful about that, but there were times he said, no, I don't think we should go down that road, and that was it. You just move on, and that's the way it is today. I don't have final say here. I never had it. Never had it when I came, and quite frankly, I don't think I want it. I don't have the ego.
All right, so I'm just come out and say, because I know it's been such a common misconception in the past, but based on what we hear, how much we buying into this? Dean, we'll start off with you.
Of course I buy into it a lot. It's the honest truth. I mean, in any professional sports, name one team that the general manager or team president that has the outside of Jerry Jones. Name one team that's the general manager or team president who has the final say so on all decisions. Right. Nobody. I'm pretty sure that Pat probably had, when he first got to Miami, he probably had more of a say so and less of pushback from ownership when he first got there, rather to now. I mean, honestly, everything that he's trying to, any trade or free agent, he has to go ex ownership first, and that's like that with any professional team. So, I definitely buy into it. But to say that, he's not the big dog in that organization, I'd call that bullcrap. I think even ownership defers to Pat at times. So I take it with a grain of salt.
Right. Alex, you?
Man, it's obvious. I feel like it's obvious that he hasn't had final say for a long time, but he is still the big dog, the biggest dog, because he's the one that at the end of the year they put out there to have the final conference. Like, we're probably not going, unless the Heat the next time we hear from the Heat, 9 times out of 10, unless they make a trade before draft day and a big trade, then the next time we'll hear about anything is when they bring in whoever they've drafted in the NBA draft. So it's like, dog, like if you're the one who we're going to hear from, and this is basically the finale of this encompassing season, then, and you're the face of the franchise, like, yeah, you are the big dog and you have a certain amount of say. And I know from listening to all the different podcasts that I listen to, like, I think in regard to the Terry Rozier situation, like supposedly I think Pat was cool with going to get Terry. Nick Harrison didn't want to do the move, but Nick leaned on, hey man, like, shoot, this is Pat Riley.
Yeah.
Should I stop Pat Riley from doing something that he wants to do? You know what? I'm gonna give it. So Nick had the final say, but Nick gave in. You know what? All right, Pat, we're gonna do what you want to do. And obviously it didn't work out at all. So supposedly after that, Mickey went to Nick and basically told him like, yo, like it's okay if you feel something in your gut and you like, no, I don't want to do it, then yo, like yeah, we understand that's Pat Riley, but you're the CEO. He's one of your employees. You're the boss. You could put your foot down and say, nah, we're not doing that.
But see, another thing is, Coach, is who's the basketball mind? Who's the basketball legend here? Who's the basketball mind? Is it the Arisons or is it Pat? So if I own a soda factory because I bought Coca-Cola and I got you or Joe, y'all the soda experts. I mean, I'm gonna defer to y'all. Like I'm gonna defer to the legend. I'm not a legend in this. I'm just a billionaire who decided to buy the team. So to sit here and say Pat doesn't have the final say so, obviously he got to talk to his bosses. But come on, he's the big dog. Like honestly, if they having a disagreement about a certain player or a certain basketball move, and it's split down the middle, I'm pretty sure they're going to side more with Pat than anything. Like, come on, man.
I don't know. That's why, like, for me, it's just so confusing, so mind-boggling. And I don't know. I don't know, because, like, I'm just at a point where I'm just like, I blame the whole front office. That's why, for me, when I see the Heat struggle, it's like I don't even try to put too much on Pat, because I feel like you can say, well, it's not only Pat, but you got to ask questions to the other guys, whether if it is, a Mickey Arison, a Nick Arison, and so going forward, right? It's like, and that's why I've seen some people say before this press started, should Pat be the one that's up there answering these questions, or should it be a Nick Arison or a Mickey Arison, right? Like, that's what people are truly asking behind the scenes, because that's how frustrated they are with the situation. And if Pat is essentially going to be in a scenario where now he's being perceived more so as a scapegoat and not really the guy pulling the strings, behind the scenes, then is that the guy we really want to hear these types of answers from? Like, it's a lot. And I get it from the fans. I mean, it's frustrating for sure. And before we get into our next clip,
wait. I'm sorry to cut you off, Joe, but I have this just like it bothers me. Why do we think that Mickey and Nick Arison is not on those final press conferences? Like, why? It's because deep down, honestly, they can't answer those basketball questions that Pat can.
Right.
That's why. Because if you're looking at the team and they ask Nick Arison or Mickey, what do you think the team needs? They're going to go up there and say something stupid. Oh, we just need to win, or we just need this. Pat knows those things. That's why when people say, "Oh, Pat doesn't have the final say so anymore. He doesn't run a team," it's bullcrap. Yes, obviously he has bosses, and he has to go through them, but they're not the basketball minds. They're not Pat Riley. They're not Spo. They're not Andy. Like, they're not those basketball minds.
Right.
So again, I think that's why they're not having those press conferences, because what are their answers going to be when Ira asks them those same questions that he asked Spo? What are their answers going to be? They're not going to have any.
Mm-hmm.
And the fans are really going to be frustrated.
Like, I mean, you said it, Dean. I mean, when I look at it, I mean, it's like I said, I just don't know who to really pinpoint the blame to, which is why I always say it's mainly just the front office altogether, And I mean, Alex, is there anything that you want to add in before we go into this next clip?
The thing that kept popping up in my head is the fact that Ethan Skolnick loves to say it a lot, where like the team and the organization likes to have one voice. So that's why, like, during the season, Eric Spoelstra is the voice. You hear Spo before games and post game, like Pat doesn't say much of anything. And then at the end of the season, they have, instead of them having, all right, let's have the panel of these are the top decision makers on the team or in the front office. Let's have all y'all sit down here and answer these questions. Instead of doing that, they just send one man up there, Pat Riley, and they have one voice.
Yeah, but I think that's how it should be. Honestly, I don't want to see Mickey and Nick do a press conference. I don't want to hear anything from them. The only thing I need to hear from them is, hey, if y'all willing to go into the luxury tax, yes or no? Y'all willing to pay? I'm sorry, is y'all willing to pay that second apron or third apron? Yes or no? So that way, when we realize this is why Pat didn't make certain moves, it's because they wasn't willing to go in that luxury tax. They wasn't willing to pay that extra money. That's the only thing I need to hear from them. Is y'all willing to pay that extra cost to build a championship, a legit championship roster? Yes or no? That's the only question I want to hear from them. Well, the only answer I want to hear from them.
And that's fair, So overall, man, I mean, it is what it is. For me, the way I see it, just blame the whole front office. Nobody is exempt from nothing. Everybody is just under, everyone's just under my lashings, bro, because that's how I feel about this situation. Like, everyone's saying Pat should step down, this, and that. No, like, as far as I'm concerned, just hold everyone accountable. And honestly, if I could clean house, I'd probably consider it, because that's how frustrating this has been. Like, everyone says Pat should step down, but also, honestly, I'm just fed up with everyone at this point. The Arisons, all of them, Like, that's why I just can't pinpoint it towards one person. And that's why, like, when I hear these Pat quotes, I don't really look over it like that. I mean, okay. I mean, it doesn't change my opinion on you, no, but it also doesn't change the fact that everyone in the front office has a role to play into why we are what we are, right? So overall, I mean, it seems like we're all on the same ship with that. Now, let's talk about this offseason, right? Because it seems like Pat did have a lot to say transaction-wise into potential moves or so that will be made. And let me go into this first quote, and it comes from what he had to say about a potential Bam Adebayo trade, in case anyone missed that.
No, I wouldn't. And name 3 teams. Give me the 3 teams.
Yeah, so Atlanta.
Name Atlanta. Okay,
Atlanta,
there's Trey.
Trae Young, they're
Okay,
better
okay,
without him.
okay. Who's next?
Indiana moved off Sabonis. They got Halliburton. And Toronto moved off Siakam, and they're better with Ingram and the other pieces they've added.
They're not Bam. I don't think they are. Not in my opinion, anyhow. Especially with your franchise pillar, anchor maker, culture carrier, and a talented guy. Now, I'm not saying that these other players, I think Atlanta's done an incredible job of. It isn't just Trey; it's the moves they made, the players they got. Very quick, very athletic team, playing with no center, by the way. No center. They're all like 6'7", 6'8", but they've been very effective, and so I'm not saying that something would happen, but I want to build this around Bam. I think Mickey wants the same thing, and Nick and Andy and all of us want to. So I'm just going to give you flat out no, I wouldn't do that. Unless somebody gave me 8 picks and Wembanyama.
I'm sorry, I'm just crying at the fact that he pronounced his name Wembanyama.
That old man messed up so many names during that press conference. He called Simone, Wembanyama. He 81 years old. 81, dog.
Like we said, two away from matching Bam. So listen, shout outs to Pat, bro. We ain't mean no disrespect with that, even though we are a little frustrated with you. But listen, man, I will say this was probably one of his best quotes in that whole press conference, because I wanted to know what his opinions were with some of these players. And for him to say that, especially when you have Ira mentioning those guys, Atlanta moving on from Trae Young, Indiana moving on from Sabonis, and Raptors moving on from Siakam. For him to say that they're not Bam, that honestly meant the absolute most to me to hear that part. That might have been one of, if not maybe the best line from that whole press conference. For him to come out and say that means a lot to me. Now, and I also love what he said at the end, unless they gave him 8 picks and Wembanyama, some folks are probably going to, hate on Bam even more. I can only imagine, like, if he has a couple stinkers here and there next year, they'll probably pull up that clip and be like, oh, you think he worked that much, huh? But it is what it is. They still hating on him for scoring 83, so we just got to live with that. But overall, man, this is actually one of my favorite quotes. And the fact that we know that Pat is on the same boat as all of us, where he sees the value in Bam and he wants to keep him here in South Beach. That right there means the absolute world to me. And like, Alex, how you feel about these comments? Because I know you've been kind of, if you want to blow it up, you can. But does this still sit well with you though? At the same time?
So yeah, man. I mean, it sit well with me. Only way I would really take some dynamite to it would have been if Bam came to me and was like, "Hey, like, thank y'all for everything, but this ain't working. I'm trying to get up out of here." And I'm the guy who years ago when KD was in Brooklyn and he was like, "Yo, it's KD wanted out." Like I'm the guy, I would have sent them Bam for KD because I feel like KD, Jimmy, plus whatever else they could have figured out, that team could have won the title. But I totally 100% respect the fact that they just like, yo, like Bam is the pillar. He's basically he's the sun and everything else revolves around him. Like that's basically what Pat said. Unless he gets 8 picks and when what he called Wemby? Wembaya. Yeah, like that's their son, and that's what we going with. I'm cool with it. I mean, what Sabonis, Trae Young, Siakam, they ain't never scored 83, so.
I mean, that's true. I mean, listen, Bam won 80 plus point game. All them guys combined 0. So you ain't gotta say no more about that. But Deem, how you feel about that quote?
I'm not surprised, and I'm not mad that that's how he view Bam.
Yep.
I mean, he won't get 8 first-round picks from, but I mean, he looks at him as a cornerstone guy and the next leader of the quote-unquote Heat culture movement. I mean, I think him and Spo and the rest of the Heat organization really wants to win around Bam. They want to prove, I guess, that he can be the cornerstone and the leader of the team. And I'm not mad at that. Me personally, I don't look at Bam as the number one player on a championship level team, but I do think he could be that cornerstone to the championship level team. So I'm not mad at it. Like again, you just gotta, like Pat said, you gotta just build around him. You gotta have the right pieces around him. Like it was said numerous times on this pod, in that press conference, the way you build teams today is totally different from how they did back in Pat time and even a little after that. So just gotta hope that they build the right pieces around Bam. Obviously, the way the team is built now is not even a playoff team, so let alone a championship level team. But let's see what they do.
Right. And I mean, and I'll say this real quick before we go into our next clip. We got 2 more, by the way, y'all. And then if you guys have any more, you can go ahead and add. But it's important to acknowledge the fact that our biggest acquisitions in recent memory have been free agent signings. And like we've mentioned, that's just not the way how the game goes anymore. If you want a star, you got to trade for one. And it's hard to look at it that way because, when we got the big 3, those were all signings, right? When we got Jimmy Butler, free agency signing, sign and trade. And so was Braun too, if you want to look at it like that. But still, y'all know what I mean. And even same thing with Kyle Lowry, if you want to count him in there too. All that being said and done, though, it's just not the same no more. And that's why we're seeing so much teams coming out here and being able to compete because they're making huge moves transaction-wise, not free agency. Because listen, free agency is still important. You can still go out there and make trades and stuff, make certain signings and stuff. But that's really for like the big name, how do you call it, high-level role players, right? That's not really the place where you go to sign, multi-time all-stars and whatnot. So all of that is like things that we just got to look at as a whole. And with that being said, trades and all that other stuff, this is what Pat said in regards to the way how the Heat plan on going into this offseason. Let's hear this.
As Anthony was talking about with Bam to help with a different kind of player, from that standpoint. But we'll try hard, Dave, to aggressively pursue opportunities in free agency, at the trading deadline, at the draft. and then you go on to the trading deadline. And you got all summer to work on other parts of your roster, and so I don't feel the pressure to do that. But I'll put pressure on myself to go out and try to accomplish something. But I'm not going to make a stupid move. I'm not. That's going to saddle us for years to come and cost us. Actually, we'll have to pay to get out from under. So we've always managed the tax extremely well. Always, Andy and I would count up the dollars before the last day of the regular season. I think this year we're. Was 800,000 under the tax or something like that, and then we can sign a player. But yeah, you don't want to be in any area where you encumber your roster or your franchise with contracts that you can't get rid of, with players who are performing. I mean, really performing, that have value. So value creation is important. Player value creation is important, and that's why you got to keep them on the floor.
All right. So with that being said, hearing that part, how do y'all feel? Because for me, I'm not going to lie. It feels like we hear this type of quote every single summer. And I mean, he can't say anything different, right? That's type of stuff I feel like you got to say in these types of press conferences. But even then, like, is there anything that y'all want to take away from that when we look back at that quote? We'll start off with you, Alex.
I mean, as you can see, and if you haven't noticed, my name above my handle is roster flexibility. So, like, I feel like he hinted at a lot of times in this press conference, he hinted at the fact that, like, they're trying to stay as flexible as possible basically over this next year. So to me, that basically goes in the regard of, hey, if we make a move, if we're able to make a move this offseason to get one of these big fish, one of these whales, then all right, then to hell with the roster flexibility. But if we strike out on all of those, then we're gonna we're gonna run it back and be as flexible as possible, probably be in the play-in again. And then once free agency hits next year, then we'll see, all right, can we make a move in regard to getting somebody to just come into cap space?
Right. And I mean, listen, I don't know what exactly is going to happen, what the Heat could possibly do. I mean, the routes are there. So all we can do is just hope and pray. I mean, that's what this offseason is for, to see exactly how things develop. And I mean, Dean, how do you view this quote?
I mean, it's the same quote from every year. You just use different words. I mean, if we go back at the last couple free agent signings outside of Jimmy Butler, they all been bad. They haven't worked. So I mean, obviously we need time to go on a new route. We can, I guess, on another pod we'll go down the list after the big three, or after the 2014 season, the free agent that the Miami Heat have signed. None of them have panned out. Outside of Jimmy Butler, they haven't panned out. They haven't made it outside the contract they signed with the Heat. So, I mean, it's time to take a different route. The last couple free agents that the big, I guess, the quote unquote wells that we did go after, the Kevin Durant, and I think the Gordon Hayward that 1 year, and whoever else, we missed out on them. So, guys, for one, they have to want to come here. And for two, you have to have the flexibility. And I guess obviously now the Heat have it, but I don't know. They haven't been hitting on free agencies. It's just not the way you build a team anymore.
Right. And it gives me an opportunity to go into this final clip that I was able to get us. And that's none other than a way of what Pat wants to do in order to acquire some stars, something that I know a lot of us fans disagree with. Let's hear it out.
When you're talking about reset and possibly having to move in a different direction, why not get any valuable assets, especially for two players who might walk for nothing in the offseason?
Well, if they walk, we get $50 million of cap space.
You'd still be over the cap, though, right? Or roughly over.
Well, if they walk on our own, that's $50 million off our payroll. So, I think we'd like to be a cap team. I think we'd like to be a cap team in 27.
So, Deem, like hearing that, I mean, does that get you feeling a certain way? Because it seems like what we've been talking, right? Where it's like we can't be prioritizing too much that type of stuff when we know this isn't how free agency operates no more, unless it's a high-level role player, correct?
Yeah, I mean, and whoever asked that question, that was a great question. I don't know who asked that question. It was a good question from
It
them.
was Ira.
Yeah,
I oh
tell
yeah,
you.
yeah. See, that's Ira was bringing the heat, man. Shout out to Ira. That was a good question. And then again, Pat was wrong again, but it is what it is. We'll discuss that, I guess, again on another pod. But it didn't make no sense to me. Why not go get them assets? And then he said later on, he talked to Wiggs and Norm, and they both mentioned to him how bad they want to stay on the team, and how he's going to talk to the agents and contracts are coming up and things like that. But again, if you got guys that's going to walk for nothing, what happened in the past to Miami not too many seasons ago, like 2 seasons ago, why not trade and get assets so you can go get those guys when the trades are there? And again, Pat did mention in the press conference that they made a lot of moves, or they tried to make a lot of moves that we didn't even know about, and that it didn't work. It didn't go through because the other teams at the last minute just said no. And again, you can't fault them for trying, but when you bring those offers to the table to these teams and they don't like the offer, or it's not enough for them, again, how could they be mad? And that's where fans' frustration come from, and say, well, you don't have the assets. You can't be upset that these other teams don't want your crappy players.
Mhm.
And again, I think Doc Rivers said this when he was on the NBC or whatever broadcast before he went to coach Milwaukee. He said that the MO in the lead is that they don't want the Miami players that they develop, because they only work in Miami. Once they get out of Miami, they don't work. So a lot of teams don't want those players, because again, they only work in Miami. And he gave Miami the props, how they develop good players, and how Coach Spo is a good coach, and how he gets the best out of the players. So I mean, and Doc was right. Those players don't work outside of Miami. And again, we're going to talk about this on another pod. And it was a great question by Ira.
Right. And Alex, you?
So I just while y'all was going and while Dean was talking, I looked up basically the names of all the players that could possibly be available and in 2027 free agency. And it somewhat goes back to the last point that I made in regards to, hey, they're going to be aggressive this offseason, but if nothing happens, then the team is going to look very similar for the most part, because of the fact that they're trying to keep flexibility. They're probably not going to offer anybody any type of contract extension or anything like that. So I'm going to just list off a few names of guys who, if they don't sign an extension, they'll be available. Steph, Giannis, AD, Jimmy, Jokic, Kat, Paul George, Donovan Mitchell, Kawhi, KD, Trae Young, Harden, Brandon Miller, Zach LaVine, Kyrie. Like, there's Jalen Green. Like, there's names, and I mean, teams aren't built that way, but obviously I feel like they're hoping and praying that it'll swing back that way. And if it does swing back that way, then they're not going to be caught with their pants down like, oh crap, we didn't prepare for this. Like, they're maneuvering to prepare for that. They've maneuvered to this point to where, all right, we haven't we did some dumb moves. Like, obviously we traded for Terry, but we were able to we weren't even really able to get anything out of that. We just got a second round pick. But like, all right, we're done dealing with that situation. Now we're not going to put ourselves in any other situations where there can be something out there that we can just have basically like, or someone out there that we can literally just have walk to us. And we looking around like, dag, like if we didn't do this move, then we could have done that. So they're keeping the slate dry for that to be able to happen. But I mean, only time will tell if that's the same way that stuff is going to get done. We as Heat fans, we're hoping that something gets done this offseason and we can say, to hell with the 2027 class. We done traded for whoever we was possibly going to get. They didn't sign an extension, and we are rolling, and we're a championship competitor. But like I said, only time will tell with if that's gonna happen or not, man.
Right. And I just gotta say, I mean, when Paul George left the Clippers to go to Philly, that was an interesting move because in case y'all didn't know, that was the first time that a player who was coming off of an all-star season changed teams as a free agent since 2019. So in other words, for 5 years, think of that 2020, 21, 22, 23. It didn't take till 24 for a player to change teams as a free agent. And then also, I guess last year, if you want to count Dame's thing, albeit that was, different because, the Bucks released him, blah, blah, blah. But with that all being said, it's just not hitting the same. So, I mean, I don't know, bro. It's like you mentioned, Alex, like at least if they are in a position where one of those guys are available, yay, I guess, like that you're in the position. But like
yay, I guess.
Yeah, because like I don't know what else to say, bro. Like yay, like thank God, I guess. But like are we really banking on it? Like it don't seem like it's gonna happen. So that's the thing that makes it so tough. Because like I said, if it's a high level role player, by all means, but I'm not banking on like an all-star caliber player, at least if they're like young, you know what I'm saying? If they're like maybe 33 or 34, like PG was when he first became a free agent that summer, then it's a completely different scenario. But I just don't know, bro. Like I really don't. But I mean, we hit on a lot of quotes. But let's see, Dean, is there anything that you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, I don't have much to say no more. The press conference didn't shock me. Like he said what he was supposed to say. He said what he said the past 3-4 years. So it's. Right. I think that Nico. What shocked me was that he thought Nico was going to be a starter this year. I think that was a little weird. Like the lineup that he thought could have been a good lineup or was the starting lineup going into the season was a real weird lineup. Like it was weird, and there's no way that was going to work. And the crazy thing is, he mentioned Nico's age. Nico's only going to be 23 next season. That's really surprised. I didn't even know that. I thought he's probably a little older than that, and that gives you a thought. Like, okay, he's still young. Hopefully, they can get that potential out of him, and maybe we shouldn't move off of him or things like that or whatever. We just ride it out and see where it goes from there, because 23 is super young.
For sure. Unless, listen, but if we do got a chance to get a star,
I mean, you move him, but I mean, if not, you don't. I was willing to let Nico go for a second round pick just to get off the contract, but I mean, damn, he'll be 23 next year going into the season. I mean, we all know Spo played him out of position, and I know Pat mentioned that he was dealing with a back injury. Obviously, we all knew the injury history he was going on with the season, but 23 is pretty young.
Right. I mean, listen, because as long as
remember, I'm sorry to cut you off, Joe, but remember when Bam came in the lead, he wasn't who he was. It had to build up. So maybe, hopefully, we get Nico back into his right position. I believe he's a point guard, and it goes from there. And maybe he can grow into being that level of player that Pat and the fans hope he can be.
For sure. I mean, I'll say it like this: if things work out in a way where he's still in a Miami Heat uniform, by all means, I would love to see things work out for him in a way, especially because at the end of the day, we gave him this extension and stuff, and I never want to see any of our players, especially when they get compensated like that, to just flame out. So I want bro to succeed for that reason specifically, but we'll see. Because at the end of the day, anyone can go that's not named Bam. Tyler. Well, Pell can actually stay. If Milwaukee or whoever was to ask for him, then I don't know. But like, if we could keep him, that'd be cool. But otherwise, Jovic can go to Milwaukee friggin' Kalel, you name it, anyone can go. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where I'm at mentally. Like, I'll pack everyone's luggage up and we can all take a Uber together and just go over to Miami International Airport. Send all of them to Milwaukee or wherever other team, as long as the star comes in that process. And I mean, there was some other quotes. Is there anything else that stuck out to y'all, or are we ready to call this an episode?
Last thing I wanted to mention, Tobin, he asked a good question. He asked him about the Tyler and Norm pairing, and I almost said Spo, but I mean both Spo and Pat both said they felt like it could work. It just was that Tyler didn't play it like Spo said it, where it was just like, all right, Norm played well, then Tyler came back, but then Tyler went out again. Then when Tyler came back, then Norm started dealing with stuff at the end of the season. And then today, Pat talked about the fact that he was just like, yo, he feels like, all right, they're two 20-plus point a game scorers that he said, like, people think that they play similar, but they play differently. And he felt like that they could coexist. It was just that he said they can coexist with the right pieces and the right style. I wrote that down in my notes. And then he also mentioned the fact that he was just like, if you really look at it, I mean, Tyler only played, I think, 37 games. So Tyler didn't play enough for them to figure it out. But, I mean, we all watched. We all watched.
Yeah, and then they had training camp. I mean, I'm pretty sure they seen in training camp that it might not work.
Tyler was hurt. Remember, Tyler was
he
out.
Was. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
So they didn't even get to see it. Tyler was already out. So I like, and that goes to the point of I'm feeling like, all right, they're setting us, and I think we mentioned it earlier in the pod how Norm and Tyler, he said Norman Wiggs mentioned that they would love to stay in Miami, but at the end of the day, it's a business. So it's like, all right, now it's gonna potentially be a similar situation to where, hey, like Tyler just had his procedure. Hey, if we don't make a run and get any star and these guys get traded for the star, then it's just gonna be a situation where, hey, maybe Wiggs and Norm come back on similar deals that keep roster flexibility, and then hey, maybe Tyler is healthy more this year. Now we can see if he's able to, or if they're able to coexist. And then once they realize yay or nay, they can or can't coexist, then another decision will be made either next trade deadline or in the 2027 free agency.
Right.
Don't player option?
Huh?
Don't Wiggs have a player option?
Wiggs has a $30 million player option. Obviously, I'm
Wiggs going to pick that up.
Yeah.
There's no way. He has no choice to pick it up because he's not going to get $30 million from nowhere else.
So yeah,
he's not going to get 25. Like he'll
get 25.
You'll think Wiggs get 25, especially with the recent injury history and how once got that extension, he's went downhill ever since that finals run with Golden State.
Wiggs will get 25. If somewhere had it, that's the issue though. I'm not sure if a team that he would be able to help right away has that form, which is probably why he just ends up, like you said, picking up the option, running it back one more time in Miami.
Yeah, he had no choice but to pick that option.
With Norm, I feel like depending on what team it is, like I know
Norm's going to get paid again.
Like, but it's like, it's the league though, so you want to secure that money as fast as possible. Like I remember back when freaking LaMarcus Aldridge was a free agent and the Heat had no cap space, and they had a meeting with LaMarcus and they basically told him, hey, go back to Portland for one more year and then we'll come get you next year. Like LaMarcus was probably like, oh yeah, okay, that sounds nice, but San Antonio about to give me however many hundreds of thousands or hundreds of millions right now. I'm gonna just go get that bag right now, because what if I go back and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna play this 1 year in Portland, but I'm gonna end up in Miami next year, and then God forbid you get hurt, and now the Heat looking at you like, shoot, I don't think you worth as much as we thought you was. So like you got to get to that bag as fast as possible, and so we'll see if, like, in my opinion, and I think I've said this multiple times, the way that Norm stays on the team is if we trade for somebody before free agency and Tyler is in the trade, then they'll be like, all right, Norm, this is what we're gonna give.
Right.
Like, but that's the only way. Like,
I don't think Norm's coming back. Well, obviously, Tyler still got another year on his contract before he get that extension. But if Tyler's not traded, I don't think Norm's coming back because I don't think games coexist. I just don't see it.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that we just need answers to this offseason. And I mean, as we wrap things up, man, I mean, a lot of stuff came from this press, and we'll see how much plays out the way how we want it to come, this offseason. But overall, man, thank y'all so much for tuning in to this episode of Heat vs. the World. Make sure to follow Alex on Twitter at _CoachLewis1, Deem at BLDeem, me at JoelKJacob_, and Heat vs. the World on all platforms at HVTW Podcast. And man, we got some more content heading y'all way. Biscayne Breakdown. We hope to get our Florida Panthers show headed up back with some more episodes soon for the Rat Trick Report. And listen, man, it's going to be a long summer, but we're going to enjoy the ride. So listen, a bit of a, tedious press conference today from Pat. Some quotes we expected. Some of them you might be annoyed by. Y'all already know what we had to say about it, but listen, buckle up and let's see what happens. Right, guys?
Bring me a star.
Exactly. Just give me honest. Just give me someone, bro. I can't. If we run it back,
make the team competitive, man. That's all I want to see is good looking basketball. None of that foolish I've seen the past 2 years.
Yeah.
And get me out the play-in.
Exactly. All right, Pat. You said you're upset that you're disgruntled that we've been in this play-in for 4 straight years. Wrap it up then. Get us Giannis, get us whoever, and let's wrap this up. So with that being said, listen, man, thank y'all so much for tuning in to Heat vs. the World. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, and hit my music because we out.
behind my back.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time with a brand new episode of the Heat vs. the World podcast.